You also pick up. It's the reverse section.
Yeah,
I somehow have 3 Game Boy Colors.
I have the D&D 3rd edition Psionics Handbook for no reason that I can possibly discern. Like,
that book is great.
It's all right. Like, I've never been big on psionics in D&D, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, but I still think that with like 1 or 2 small house rules, that is by far the best version of psionics they've ever put in the game.
What's going on here?
I'm loading the city map back up because you guys are going back to
the city map.
Tom Wolfe's apartment, right?
Yeah.
It's not what I'm talking about, but okay.
Okay. Alex.
Yeah, he's talking about the dice.
Yeah.
What dice? What's going on here? I need an explanation. Somebody own up to this. I don't approve at all of what's happening here.
If you put them next to one another and then you roll it, sometimes one of them just decides it's done and like pieces out.
So it's Nodal's fault. Okay. Alex.
What?
Late into the evening, Tom Wolfe sends out to one of the local butchers and has some pork pies brought back as for your dinner. And he points out that sometimes Mad Metal use code words when making these deliveries. One of which is car, which he figures were deliveries to Kiska based on the types of deliveries they are, gladiatorial weapons and whatnot. The other code word that he's not seen before is some are simply marked sigil. But like the word sigil, not like an actual drawing of anything. He spent a lot of time trying to figure this out, but none, like the type of magic that his mentor works didn't deal a lot with sigils, and other types of enchanters and things in the town that he's looked into have denied being recipients of these kind of items. It's also very, very few such deliveries, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of coherence in what types of machines or items are either made or repaired.
I will go through my pack and pull out my piece of parchment where I've written down one portal in the courtyard of the High Priest's temple or whatever, leading to Sigil, I believe is what the note said, that survived.
Tom Wolfe looks at it and says, so you think this sigil is a place?
Yeah, it seems to be.
He asks where you came by this.
A font of incredibly useless knowledge. And some useful knowledge.
He asks you if there's any such thing as useless knowledge.
I mean, let me start writing you a book.
And it's shortly after you guys enjoy your pork pies that the rest of them return to the apartment.
Any luck?
Well, it looks like Mad Metal was making shipments very rarely to Sigil, as well as Car, which we believe is somewhere in Kiska. I think we were in the middle of working on that when you left.
Is that something that any of the people from the other side of the ocean would be able to kind of identify?
No,
or is it just gibberish?
It looks like it's just a code word he uses.
Okay.
It's not even a Kiskin word.
All right. Well, we found out that most of the guy's stuff is on display, including the logbook.
Seeker.
And he's...
As you're talking, Tom Wolfe is looking at you and just grinning.
Yeah, yes?
Just grinning.
And Seeker just, like, pauses for a moment and then starts up again.
You drank the gin card, didn't you?
Seeker holds up, like, a shot hand glass this much.
He nods. He's like, yeah, that's about all it takes.
Seeker pauses for a second. Then he starts just going on again. Because he's gonna find this out eventually, and he might as well get through his part. And he just tells them essentially, like, we found the bit of we found the logbook. He's just got it out. and he seems to have a bit of a I don't know what did they call themselves?
Auctioneer? Auction house?
No, the people on the ship.
Who's it? Oh,
Privateers?
Sure, our privateer establishers fetish, and I think we might be able to trade him our knowledge that we found in the autistic octagon for the
Hold on, is this
information that he has.
Is this useless knowledge or useful knowledge?
Well, is there any such thing as useless knowledge?
I didn't think so. He looks back at Alex, says, but apparently there is.
Seeker looks at him disappointed.
Do you make
I just feel like the Arctic and the Arctic elongation, just like most of what we got out of that was not useful in any form.
the emasculated Evangelion?
that's a good one. I
That's
like that
actually
one.
what it
I
is, isn't
do
it?
like that one. That one is really good.
Do you make it clear to Tom Wolfe that this has nothing to do with the investigation into Mad Metal?
I mean, at this point, we thought so many things were uninvolved that ended up being involved that I'm not confident anything isn't related to anything else ever again.
Okay, fair enough. What do you tell him about the nature of the Apton and Ocragon? If anything.
It's not to give out magic items.
I'll just explain that it's a creature or intelligence. I think creature might even be overstating it. Whose nature is just to observe all the portals and other interplanar transgressions between here and anywhere else.
It knew a bunch of other stuff too, and Seeker will just kind of run down some of the things that he learned.
Says Alex, I must apologize. I think I understand what you mean now.
Seeker's disappointed.
Tom tells you that the space here is relatively cramped, but you're free to stay as long as you need to. He's happy to assist your investigations in whatever way he can, provided you're going to assist him with finding Mad Metal.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can reestablish our goals list here. I think we should first try to get behind that door, see what else is going on back there. Second, before we leave, we should try to have some sort of discussion with this guy and about his book. And third, that Portal Signal's looking real good.
Yep.
Alex, while we're here, do you want to try and see if we can't at least make an attempt to locate any next of kin for Florian?
That's a good point.
I mean, the magic he studied wasn't exactly common, so I mean,
Sure. Is there, Tom? Is there like a accepted magical college here? Or...
They don't have colleges per se the way that Dunfoss would, but a lot of powerful wizards of a lot of different disciplines do live in the city, and some of them have larger apprenticeships than others. So this would be a place where you could go to study magic if you were inclined to learn it, but your journey doing it would be very different than if you'd gone to Dunfoss.
I mean, I guess I'll just try and I'll just spend some time tomorrow investigating and see if I can't go to as many of these as I can and ask them if Florian was their Florian's master.
I'll leave that up to McDohl, if they're going to be able to pick up any traces of Florian here or not.
Absolutely not.
Florian just congealed out of the air one day.
So, Florian's magical discipline was a school of onomancy, which is the study and use of true names. And there are a lot of different philosophies about how those kinds of magics work. But in one day, going through the town, making inquiries at various establishments, you can't find another wizard with whom this is their primary magical discipline. It's just not something that most wizards would think to focus exclusively on. Think of onomancy more as a tool that is available to all wizards rather than something to make your specific focus. That's the long and the short of it that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the name Florian, it's not an uncommon name. You probably run into a couple of Florians here. But as far as finding his family or a mentor or friends or an ex-lover or cabana boy, nothing comes up.
Okay.
I'm going to send off a message to Captain Tensales, asking him if the information inside the book, as in a copy, is as valuable as the book itself, or if he needs the actual book.
Tensales wants the actual book.
All right. Then yeah, I think we need to.
When do you send the sending? What's time?
It would have been like that night.
I've got a stone that goes to one of his men if you want to.
No, I'll just send him the. I'd rather send it to him. I know the spell.
You don't get a response until very late in the day. But yes, he's looking for the actual book. So he's clearly preoccupied with a lot of other tasks right now.
He needs the actual book.
What that says to me is the last time we had to get the actual book, they wanted the person that asked us to do that. We're not going to talk about how it was secretly a devil, but the person that asked us to do that was trying to. We're not talking about that.
They're dead.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
It was a whole thing.
They were trying to keep information from getting out. So basically,
Yeah.
they wanted to be the only one with that information. So I'm assuming it's something similar. Like it's information that Tensales has, and he doesn't want anybody it to fall in anybody else's hands.
But...
Or the book is needed, like you have to have the actual physical book to open. I don't know, magical bullshit lock. I don't know.
That seems believable.
He found
Also
a
believable.
Plausible.
he found a room with 1 million gold pieces that the founders let slip through their fingers the first time.
That's how he got so rich.
That makes sense.
So we're combing through that book before we give it to him, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we
Alright.
have, yeah.
Glad we're on the same page about that.
Okay, so you guys spend the better part of the next day trying to track down Florian's family and waiting on a reply from Tensales. Anything else you're doing that day? As you get on in the evening?
I mean,
I do think we should try and make the best use of our time. We should maybe try and see if we can get in with this sand elf.
Okay, you're going to pay him a
face
visit?
to face with him. See if he has a price.
What time of day do you go to visit him?
Let's say in the morning.
So, early in the morning?
how are you going to play this? Are you going to play this as you want to purchase the book? Like, what's our plan here?
I say it's the truth. Why not the truth?
That we want to purchase. I mean, that is the truth. We want to purchase the book.
Well,
But
now that
then
I've seen the the room that he has set up, I don't think that's gonna work.
He might want the book in exchange for some unreasonable task.
Right. I think what we do is we make a copy of the book, and we bargain for for time to study it, and then we make the swap. And then we go to Sigil.
I mean, I think we should at least try to acquire the book legally.
I think that gives the game away,
So-
doesn't it?
But yeah,
Yes.
there is the fact that like us expressing interest in it makes us the prime suspects if we steal the book.
Yeah.
So
Which we've already done.
How
no, we
about
haven't. We haven't as of yet.
how about this, Seeker?
Yeah.
We split the difference. You express interest in something else that he has for sale. And then you offhandedly say, "Oh, what about this? Is this also for sale?"
No, that's that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, misdirection, right? That's all. That's what you're about, right?
If it was misdirection, I have an idea.
What's your idea?
Alright, let's hear it.
We tell him that we want to buy the book. We read the book after coming to an agreement with our information. And then, when I read the book, I tell him we want our information back because he's given us a forgery. That's when we make the swap.
Sorry, this is
He's
out of
likely already
character.
authenticated the information in the book, and the book is genuine.
This book is a ship's manifest, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alright. Back in character. How would we prove that a ship's manifest is a forgery?
See, that's the trick, right? Is we have
Okay.
at that point, if he's already authenticated the information, he either one tries to prove to us that it is not a forgery, in which case we take back our consternation, or two accepts that it is a forgery. Either way, we win. We don't have to prove it's not a forgery. If he proves to us that it's not a forgery, we're done.
I don't see the
But
end
how
game
does
here.
that leave us with...
Because we swapped it with a forgery.
Where are we going to get this forgery?
Seeker raises
Okay.
a hand.
Alright. No, I get... Yep, I understand. Yes, I like this plan. It's bold.
Alex, Lucius,
You
do you
know-
have a better idea? Possibly.
I wish we could come up with a plan. Most
I
of it that
mean-
would just involve doing things on the up and up and legal.
I mean, I'm assuming we'll have to deal with some sort of unreasonable request. We could
Like-
go to Sigil and try and come up with something on the way back.
We
Who
could
knows what we'll find there.
literally offer this man a what did Tencel say? A carriage of gold.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we let the man set his terms.
My vote's for asking him up what it's for being upfront with him and asking him what it's actually worth rather than trying to deceive him.
I'm in agreement.
All right, if that's the way that you guys want to go.
And we're doing this in the morning. We're going to enact this plan and go up there and speak with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seeker is spending the night going out and getting some of the materials for a forgery, because this sounds like an even better plan, in that now if his team is questioned as to whether they stole the book, they can honestly say no. Seeker's not going to tell them.
Okay. Seeker, do you have any proficiency with leatherworking tools?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm going to have to find some sort of underground leatherworker to do the job with me.
Okay.
There's got to be a forger here somewhere.
Underground leatherworking
No, there's got to be a forger
Yeah,
here
major
somewhere. That's what I'm saying.
industry.
Does Tom Wolfe know anybody?
I know somebody. I have a. That's my feature, actually. I have underground contact.
Oh,
Okay.
you know a guy?
Yeah, ear to the ground. You are in frequent contact with people in the segment of society that your chosen quarries move through. These people might be associated with the criminal underworld. The connection forms in the form of a contact in any city you visit, a person who provides information about the people and places of the local area.
With an asterisk saying that it won't function in Sigil. You don't know jack about Sigil. Okay. Whatever the player's handbook price lists for a book of that quality,
Yeah.
double it. Because you need this done surreptitiously, and you need it done quietly. Because you are committing a crime. You are crime boy.
Crimes.
Alright, so who's going to go see Kinzeros the next day? All of you, or just some of you?
I'll go.
I'm going.
Alright. The establishment's not open to the public early in the day, but if you make an appearance and say you're here to conduct business, one of the serving women can set up a meeting for you. You find them very jovial and in good humor, very polite, and as long as you aren't rude or uncivil, and you make some sort of presentation that you have actual business to discuss, you're not waiting for more than an hour or so. During which time you're told you have freedom to roam the grounds until Kinzeros is ready to receive you. And you're not waiting for more than an hour or so. How do you guys spend that hour? Just chilling out in front of the manor?
No, I'm gonna walk around.
Yeah, I'm gonna case the joint.
Okay.
Yeah, if we're roaming, we're casing the joint.
So you have this nice stone path, and there are several large, beautiful gardens on the area, and many, many trees. Like, you can never actually get lost in the trees. You never actually get the sense that you're in a forest. But it looks like the trees were purposely placed to look like a forest. Like, they weren't planted in neat rows, but you can tell there was some structure to them. And there are brilliant fountains and things. Back in this corner, I think this original map was supposed to be set like along like a mountain cliff face or something.
Sure.
There's actually no such cliff face here. It's just the edge of the forest, which would be the edge of his property, and then beyond that would be plots of farmland. But up in this northeast corner here, you have this white wooden fence. And as you get close to it, you realize the fence is not painted. It's some kind of... it's just naturally white wood that seems to clutch. It seems to catch the light in a particular way that makes it look like it's illuminating. I'll let my Lucius and Gus, if you'd like to try to make a history or nature check, would also be appropriate here. Also, this giant statue of like a friggin' three-headed demon is also not actually here. That would be just...
So the statue is not there?
No. You can just replace this with trees. I probably should have photoshopped in some trees there.
20.
20? Okay.
18.
Wood is very rare. Especially in Kiska, where they don't primarily use it as a building material, but they do import quite a lot. But this particular kind of wood is from a white tree that grows in the desert, blooms once. Why is Connor 90 feet tall? Okay.
He's growing to be a kaiju to match the Florian kaiju.
Gotcha.
He's growing strong and healthy.
This tree takes 2 generations, so a good 40 years or so, to grow, and it blooms once with leaves and flowers, and then wilts away and dies, and eventually is reduced to dust by the surrounding desert. That's what this fence is made out of here, and this gate. And beyond it, you see a mausoleum. And in front of the mausoleum are 4 8-foot tall pillars or so. On 3 of them, rather, is a statue of a dragon with wings clasped across its back. The 4th pillar, this nearest one to the gate, has nothing atop it.
Huh. I'm assuming this wood is absurdly expensive.
Absurdly expensive. In fact, in some cultures in the desert, it would be sacrilegious It would be a huge religious faux pas to fell one of these trees for something as base as building material.
Gus is like, holy shit, Lucius.
I know.
Is the gate open?
Not when you arrive, but it's openable.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
I'll-
like-
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Lucius isn't going to, but he's going to just kind of he's going to stand outside the gate.
Is Alex not here with you guys?
This man does.
Yeah, Alex is just waiting out in the entrance.
Okay.
This man
Does
does
the gate-
not seem to hold the desert in very high regard for a sand elf, which is surprising.
So you push your way in. It's just a small courtyard with this walkway leading up to the stone mausoleum. The mausoleum doors are sealed, and you see elvish glyphs adorning the wall. Do any of you read elvish?
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay. You can tell it's lists of
Connor
names.
does.
Sand elf names. So Connor, to your eyes, they would look very exotic. Kind of like, yeah, you can speak Japanese, but can you read kanji?
Yeah.
Just because it's from a very different culture of elves. But lists of names that you presume to be members of King Xeros' tribe who are... It looks like there's too many here to be interred within the size of the building before you. But unless you're going to blast your way into the mausoleum, that's about all there is to see on the front of it.
Not yet.
Not yet.
What's going on with this? What is this?
That's just trees. There's no three-headed demon statue here.
Oh, weird.
I should have photoshopped this guy away. Because, I just repurpose maps that I find with Google image searches. And
Sure.
I think I got this off somebody's Patreon. Yeah, it's down here. The well-dressed Viking made this map. And,
Yeah, it's just a lot.
sometimes I don't notice details like this until after I've already put it on Imgur. So, we'll just... That's not there.
Just don't worry about it.
There's another building nearby that's also it's similarly closed. A stone building, but the doors in the front of them are not sealed the same way. They're just heavy oak doors, and they're just locked. There's double doors here, here, and here on the front facade of this building. It looks like it could be a religious structure, a temple, or some such, but you don't see any iconography that you recognize. And Lucius coming
is
across
kinda
the
looking
corner.
Yeah.
Come with you.
You come to where this beautiful raised gardens, and you hear the trickling of water, where these fountains and pools bubbling up from the aquifer beneath the town, which means the water is crystal clear, absolutely pristine, and very, very cold as we are deep into winter now.
Is there a bench or somewhere to sit down?
Of course, several.
Lucius will take a seat, take out his pipe.
And there are other people walking the grounds. There are servants going around. All of the man's servants are halfling women. All of them. Tending to his gardens, cleaning things, moving supplies in and out. And they always have a nice, friendly smile for you. They're very knowledgeable about the grounds. If you have questions. And none of them ever act like they're too busy to stop and assist with anything.
I'll ask one of them what that building is.
She asks you if you're a follower of Osprey.
No.
She asks if you follow any of the major gods.
No.
Not a religious man?
Not really, no.
She tells you that it is a sand elf, the tradition of sand elves to not revere gods, but revere sorcerer kings from far, far back in history. They were gods that walked the sands, that after many, many generations of being worn down by the harsh winds and the hot temperature and the fires licking across the desert, wore them down into mortal creatures that are now the sand elves. So many of these tribes deep in the desert revere these ancient sorcerer kings rather than gods. And this is a sandstone temple that has been erected on King Xeros' property for his own religious practice.
I mean, Does that sound familiar to me?
I'll let you decide that. How closely. I mean, everybody from that side of the ocean would know about these ancient sorcerer kings, but I'll let you decide how much actual detail Gus would know.
I mean, like, just what a normal person on the street would know about
Yeah.
sand elves.
Sand elves worship their ancestors rather than a pantheon of gods like most other mortals do.
Okay. Interesting.
Alex.
Yeah.
After about an hour, one of the serving women come back out and tells you if you would collect your party, that Kinzeros is willing to meet with you. And she compliments you on the high craftsmanship of your metal guardian.
Oh, thank you.
Then she cheerfully
See many of these in these parts?
now and again. She tells you that there are various apprentices in town of both Mad Metal and Stormling. Both are known as clockwork wizards.
And I'll let out a loud whistle to my companions.
They're being summoned.
And you all pop
Look,
into
Honor
existence.
Skywrite.
How do you not just use Skywrite to draw a dick every hour? Just every hour on the hour.
Is it a ritual? Can you do that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that counts spell slots. Who the hell would want to do that?
If you spend a year
I mean,
or
also,
so...
we're going to have to get into exactly where Unicode character sets come into 10 words or less.
Sky emoji.
Sky emoji.
It's just he just shoots into the sky. It just says a symbol.
And yeah, Brick, if you spend a year writing Skywrite on the sky every day,
It becomes
the dick becomes permanent.
Well, I was thinking you spend the year prepping scrolls. And then just go all out. Just non-stop dicks in the sky for as long as people can stand it. Kinzeros welcomes you into one of the sitting rooms in the front here. This is one of the private dining rooms where people can... This particular room is a gaming room. There are 2 large gaming tables set up. One is a billiards table, and one is for playing hands at cards. And he has various
I don't
other...
play billiards.
I have the tiniest billiards table in my house now that you can't use because there's nowhere in my house you can stand and actually shoot. Never mind.
But it's so tiny.
It's so tiny.
Never
And you see
played
other
billiards
trophies
before.
that he has from his years of adventuring on the walls here. Kinzeros has bright orange skin. His clothes, like he's chosen colors for his clothes, and you can tell that he's dyed his hair as well, which he wears straight and clean down his back. But the colors of his clothes, you see, he's chosen to try to take the bite out of what must seem to most people to be very bright, very vibrant skin color. And he has fiery red eyes as well. But otherwise, he's dressed for winter, wearing beiges, light browns, whites, and soft grays. And he rises from his chair behind the dealer's position at the card table as he welcomes you in and says, Flumph Inc. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Please, have a seat.
No worries about the wait.
Shall I send for wine or tea? Any sort of refreshments.
Whatever refreshment you feel is appropriate.
Okay.
I'm not. It is a bit early for alcohol, I would say, but
And he cocks his head to one side, gives you kind of a sideways look. Says, very well. Tea it shall be. And he sends one of his serving women off to fetch a kettle. He formally introduces himself. Kinzeros Dunestrider, at your service. I'm told that you have business you'd like to discuss with me. I would hear your names first, if you don't mind.
Lucius Udoc.
Alexander Flintraker, and this is Scrappy.
I'm the Seeker in the Dark.
Connor.
Gus.
He asks Connor and Gus, whether they carry family names.
Gus shrugs and says, yes. Gus's last name is Heartborn.
Okay. Do you tell him that?
Yeah.
Okay. What about Connor?
No, he doesn't.
He asks if it's because your family has brought you shame, or if you simply do not know your origins.
I don't know my origins.
He nods and says no more on the topic. The Seeker in the Dark, to my ears, sounds more of a title than a name. No doubt your friends have a word that they use to address you?
And Seeker nods and says, Seeker.
Very well. And you, Lucius, is there any connection with the Udocs outside of Kiska?
Distantly, yes. I believe I'm related by Lucius. Counts off his fingers and gives the 2-3 generations. Lucius would know this exactly, but the player does not.
So he tells you, if you were not aware, that perhaps one of your distant uncles, Amshun, was well known to the founders of Blue Wyrm.
And Lucius says, he snaps his fingers, and a little weasel appears on the table in front of him, and he says, "This is little Amshun."
And he laughs, and I was speaking of the Tiefling patriarch from across the ocean.
Yes, yeah, that's what I named him after.
So the tradition lives on, and at this point the kettle arrives, and a tea service is laid out. I guess right here on the card table for now. The halfling goes by to each of the 5 of you, offering you cream and sugar and whatnot.
Lucius accepts.
Yeah, Alex adds something to his tea before drinking it.
Seeker uses a lot of cream and sugar.
He's like, can I just get rid of this tea and just drink the cream and sugar?
Gus just drinks it straight.
Yeah, same with Connor.
This is very well. I'm delighted to hear. Actually, first, before you get to business, he confirms that he's heard correctly, that you've traveled here from Dunfoss.
That's correct.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that Dunfoss has recently elected a new king.
Mm-hmm.
King Sigurd Tensales.
He asks if you were in town for the election and subsequent coronation.
Yes.
The riot, too.
Yes, we were.
Was there rioting?
Just light rioting.
There's rioting out in my living room right now, if you can hear it.
Just light rioting.
Just light rioting. He asks you if you've taken a measure of the new king. What does the future hold for Dunfoss?
And Connor reiterates his line that he thinks it's rude to talk about politics at work.
He begs your forgiveness. He says it's so rare that I get business in from Dunfoss. I so rarely have the chance. And if possible, I'd like to take my news firsthand. Do any of the rest of you have anything to say about the crown?
Gus is going to basically remember that when people asked him what he thought of Sigurd Tensales that one time in the bar and it started a fight, and I got thrown in jail.
That seems unlikely to happen here, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay, well, Gus will say I think he's an asshole, but he'll probably do a good job.
You're very Crude, but forthright. To my ears, you sound trustworthy, Gustavus.
Thank you. I try.
How did you find the tea? The tea is just this really frou-frou Sylvan elf, like, top shelf with lavender and chamomile, and that's the kind of tea we're talking about here.
Fine. Not really much of a tea guy. Prefer coffee.
Is I can have some brewed if you like. Personally, I have no palate for the stuff.
Well, some days when you're marching across, like, it's the only thing that keeps you going when you're marching across on campaign.
And he nods as though in understanding. He tells you that he understands perfectly well what you mean. Fortunately for me, those days are long behind me. Although, if I may say, you look like a fine, up-and-coming adventuring troupe in your own right.
Oh, no.
Investigators,
We're not adventurers.
not adventurers.
And when Lucius says investigators, Connor does air quotes.
I just feel like
Lucius ignores him.
four out of the 5 of us just go at once in unison. We're not We're not adventurers. And then, like, Connor's just over there rolling his eyes, doing air quotes.
Connor mouths it along with them.
So, let's get to the matter of the business you brought before me.
Yes. What we're seeking is the manifest of Adric's honor.
One of my prized pieces. I believe I have it on display outside of the tap room.
Yes, I took a look yesterday evening. Very, very fascinating. Our interest in it is not our own, but the king, the King Sigurd 10 sales that we just spoke of.
And he kind of looks surprised at the comment. He sits more straight up in his chair. Says, "You're here speaking on behalf of the king."
Yes, we're apparently employees now.
He looks over at Gus. "Does the king know that you speak of him in such vulgarities?"
Gus just shrugs.
Well,
I wouldn't change what I was going to say.
The king tends to prefer straight shooters.
Also, he's an asshole. So,
I won't tell if you won't.
right.
And what is King Tensale's interest in my collection?
My expectation is that he's looking for a way to make a connection with other lands. And in your manifest, he sees something that he could understand that would perhaps give him some insight into dealing with your people.
So now that I know that I am speaking with people who come on behalf of the crown, I suppose I should dispense with the pretense that the manifest is not for sale. We're speaking on a level now where all things are for sale.
We've come across a few things that we think you might be interested in.
He asks if you know the story of the Blue Wormling as it was founded here originally.
We've heard the story before, but we'd love to hear it from someone who has a strong stake in the matter.
He tells you that his version of the story is a little different. That he and his tribe, several families out in the deserts, where he was just a boy, when an ancient blue dragon came into their territory, decimated many of their lands, many of their hunting grounds, laid waste to them, killed many of his tribesmates, so that she could lay a clutch of eggs. And by the time they were able to reclaim any of it, the dragon had abandoned the territory again, and the eggs, 4 of them, had already hatched. And the men of his tribe made it, including himself, made it their lives' mission to hunt these 4 hatched dragonlings down. 3 of them they found, out in the deserts and were able to kill. One attempted to make a nest a little too close to Kiska and was slain by the people that eventually took its carcass back across the ocean and used it to found the inn at this crossroads.
That sounds like an excellent way to anger an ancient blue dragon.
He says no trace of the Ancient One was ever found after she flew off, leaving the clutch of eggs behind. I thought it fitting that I would spend my retirement here at this place, where the last of the 4 wormlings, if you haven't seen it, it remains on display near to the cathedral.
Interesting. I'll have to go take a look later.
So you see my connection to these people who I have had the pleasure of meeting when I was a younger man. It's very sentimental.
Oh, so you lived during those days. So you must have met their sorcerer, Eldov Fireblood, yes?
He nods. He says, I worked with Eldov for a short period of time. He had, and he starts describing the vast project of carving a river to the ocean. And that's a lot of where King Xeros' adventuring came in. He did a lot of scouting for those days. He did a lot of like clearing out of orc and goblin mounds around the area. A lot of what he was doing was trailblazing a path where this river could take, which would not disrupt or destroy sites of ruins. That was not Eldov's intention, to just carve through places where knowledge could be gained that hadn't been plumbed yet. So he spent a lot of those years in those ruins, fighting monsters and amassing treasure and reporting back. Fond memories for him. But since he's dispensed with the notion that the manifest is not for sale, knowing now how sentimental of a connection it is, he advises you to dispense with the notion that it is for sale for any amount of gold. So what is it your king has to offer?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, I don't suppose you're familiar with any of Eldov's progeny, are you?
He's not had the pleasure.
At that, Connor turns around and points at the rest of Flumph and says, "See, I told you something's up here. Don't trust him." And he sits back down.
I mean, the Pawns isn't that bad. Again, he paid for a lot of this. Like, I expect he's probably related to Eldov's sister and doesn't actually have any magic.
Seeker starts waving his hands as they are in a meeting with a customer, people.
And he's a customer who is a little confused and is briefly wondering whether you're calling him a Pawns.
Yeah. And he says, Seeker says, so we've heard that you were a former adventurer. You've told us such yourself. Have you ever found yourself yearning for one more adventure? Because we think we might have one for you.
He described... There's no elves among you, correct?
No.
Was Florian was a half-elf, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm also a half
Yeah.
elf.
Oh, okay. Okay, so there's half of an elf among you.
Yeah.
He tells you that it is the nature of his people as they come to the end of their worldly endeavors that they begin to feel a pull to the world beyond. And he's not sure if other races feel the same thing as they come to the end of their mortal existences. But he admits that he's felt this particular pull in the manner of returning to a life of adventure. But he's told himself that he would not do so unless the need were extreme. If the stakes were high enough to require a man of his caliber. What he's saying is he's a level 20 character, and he's not getting out of bed to go slaughter some orcs.
Yeah. And Seeker says, during the course of our investigations into Eldov, we found a location that contained an artifact that they obtained from. A seeker looks over at Alex. Another plane?
Yeah, something like that.
And the artifact is a store of information. We obtained as much as we could, of course, but we think that it would be of interest to you to make the same journey as we did. And Seeker kind of lays out the route that not the route because that's what we're selling, but the it just kind of gives them the sales pitch.
Okay. So you describe the Aptodonocragon and tell them what it is and what it does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And he listens politely. And at the end of the pitch, he says that it's largely understood that most of the founders slipped away to other planes of existence. And it's possible that some of them are out there still. But that he has never heard of this particular construct before. And he asks if you've brought him any evidence of its existence.
I think, Alex, the sheet that you have might be a bit of evidence for us. And we would also, of course, be willing to swear this under any truth spell you might know.
Alex will fish out the sheet that has the locations of all the fake crossings and hand that over for inspection. I transcribed information from one of the sources on borders between this world and the Feywild.
But
Connor looks at Alex. I don't like you.
I mean,
For
there
security
were
purposes.
only a few. This world seems to be particular. I mean, our world isn't very well deeply connected to other worlds, from my understanding. This is apparently unusual. So there really wasn't a lot else to be gained aside from that and the single portal to Sigil everyone knows about in the center of this city.
oh, you don't need to tell me that this world is close to the Feywild.
He looks impressed at
That's
the
a step
massive
away.
data here. And he asks if this particular piece is this an original or is this a copy?
I think it's a copy because I think I still have the original of both of these, and if I've given anyone one of them, I've just made a copy.
Okay. So you're proposing to tell me how to find the device that contains this information, and in exchange, I would relinquish to you this manifest?
Seeker nods and then says, although I want to be perfectly honest, it seemed to us that the creature that maintained the location considered it a test of sorts. We can't assume that you would be given the same test as us. We can tell you how to reach the test, but solving it might be up to you.
He wants to know details about this test.
Do we still know that?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, you guys put together those mazes and everything. Like, you still recall.
Yeah, aside from what got wiped out of our memories, aside from the second portal that no one knows about.
You guys read a lot of books in there and asked a lot of questions of the Aptodonocragon that you no longer have knowledge of. But the knowledge of actually solving the puzzles in the courtyard and putting together the mazes, all of that that's yours to cherish.
Yeah, and Seeker will go through a couple of the rooms.
He says that he's heard a story of a similar wizard's tower, specifically constructed to be filled with traps and mysteries and whatnot. He says he heard the story from the founders. By the time they had reached it, it had been taken over by goblins, if you can believe it.
Perhaps that's where they
That's
got the idea.
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. He asks if he may have a day or two to consider the proposal. He will want to take some time to authenticate some of the information, to give it a good think.
Certainly.
Of course.
And if I may, if you'll forgive me, I would bring up a second bit of business. You say you are investigators from Dunfoss, and you work for the new king, King Ten Sails.
We do
Well,
work
we're
for him, yeah.
investigators for hire, but we have kind of an unusual standing contract with a new magical guild that he's formed. Work for might be a bit of an overstatement.
Very well.
You can ask Seeker about our rates.
They're very reasonable.
Oh, are you the purser?
I tend to think of myself as the rainmaker.
He asks you, if there is a temple to Sensine in Dunfoss. And there is. You all would know this, walking through the temple district. Sensine is a goddess of thoughts. And 2 kings ago, King Iriadul was a follower of Sensine.
Yeah.
Is that the king we're wary of?
Iriadul is the one that the blind gnome told you he said he would be coming back someday.
Yeah, okay.
He asks what you can tell him about the Temple of Sensine and its various practices.
I'll give him as much information as I have available.
Make a religion check. I'll let somebody assist you with this if you like.
Does anyone train in religion? Want to take this?
I am trained in religion. Let me.
I've got a +5.
I
I
am
also
trained
have
in
a
religion.
+5 from no training, but I can give someone else a +5 on top of. So I'll just snap my finger. Someone else can.
Alright, I'll make the roll then.
Yep. Go ahead.
That is a 18...
Did you roll 3
Plus.
dice?
No, I rolled the 2 on the right here.
Oh, okay.
Did I roll the left one too?
I don't know. I was over here looking at another part of the
Let me
table.
let me re-roll it. I rolled better. But it doesn't matter because it's a preposterous number anyway.
Okay.
That's 25.
So Seeker is a religious man, but not of this particular temple. And the temple itself in Dunfoss, it's a place of worship, but it's also a place of training. Sensine is followed by a lot of martial artists. Most of the Githzerai that live in Dunfoss, which isn't many, but most of them are followers of this particular goddess. So a lot of meditation, a lot of honing mind and body. That's the kind of things that they're up to.
I mean, we have a Githzerai in our back pocket. We can ask.
Yeah, I'll run him through the gist of it and hear what he has to say before I offer our gift up.
He asks how much... Well, first of all, he asks if you have resources with which to facilitate long-distance communication.
Yes.
If I were to retain you as investigators, we would be able to stay in contact without having to send riders, yes?
Yes.
You're capable of at least that much. Very, very good. And you say you're not adventurers. Interesting. Okay.
Investigators.
He says
Connor shrugs helplessly.
he's very interested in learning about the secret aspects of the Temple of Sensine. What are they hiding and why?
What is sensing a goddess of?
She's a goddess of thought and the mind.
Okay.
So,
What alignment are we talking here?
probably no specific alignment, but probably leaning towards lawful because of the
Yeah.
dedication and focus required in her teachings. Her clerics, the way they manifest their magic is something like psionics.
So like a wobbly waffle neutral.
Sure.
Okay.
He tells
Yeah,
you that.
we'd be...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we'd be willing to write up a contract to be hired under these terms.
He says, please allow me 2 days to consider your proposal to authenticate the information you've given me here. And at that time, I will finalize a formal request for investigators from Dunfoss. I am to assume, however, that this investigation would not be taken under the full might and interests of the Crown.
Yes,
We would not, of
unfortunately.
course, be under our official capacity.